Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Duke It Out. This show seems to be mired in a lot of long absences. I kind of feel like the creators of Rick and Morty here, year in between shows and whatnot. I am the Duke, and today we have a little bit of a drier situation than what we normally go for. We were set to talk about Black Panther, but, recent events have kind of pushed that to the back burner, so we'll probably get to that one in a later episode. But today, I kind of wanted to go over some of the things that are happening in and around our world, most notably the school shooting that happened in Parkland, Florida. I know it's a bit of a heavy subject to lead in with, but I wanted to first and foremost say that, our thoughts and prayers here at the Debate Amongst Friends crew are with the survivors and the families and the slain of those in that shooting. It's an unfortunate circumstance, but sadly it's kind of a mark of the world that we live in today. But speaking of that, as I came in today, Chris went ahead and slid me a little article that one of our listeners sent in from centered around our illustrious president and his response to this incident. And the listener kind of asked me what my thoughts were on this. So, just for a little bit of context, the headline of this article reads, "Trump says video game violence is shaping young people's thoughts." End quote. I don't necessarily vibe with this, and I've talked about it a few times before, most notably with music, but I'll go ahead and say it again. I really feel like the core of a child's learning is at home in their family. I remember being a kid back when Mortal Kombat first came out, and oh my goodness, like that game is what started video game ratings. Parents freaked out, but at the same time, you didn't hear anything about kids trying to rip each other's spines out, or even so much as performing the signature Nutcracker from Johnny Cage. So I don't know how much credence this gives to that argument, but I am more so of the opinion that it is not the games themselves, but it is the lack of interaction from parents, family, teachers, sometimes even peers, that leads kids into thinking that these kind of things are okay. It's the same thing that we saw with the gang epidemic back in the 80s. You had a bunch of kids, adolescents, young adults, teenagers, all struggling to find a sense of family, and they found it within themselves under a bad ideology. It's not so much so that gangs were going out and, pulling the Somalia, snatching kids off the street and making them child soldiers. No, it was, kids were looking for that guidance. They were looking for what they were missing at home, and they found it in the games. I feel like, if anything, that is what we see today with, video games and music. We see kids that are going out trying to fill in the gaps in their life that aren't being filled by the people that they rely on. So, I don't even know if it's so much that we need to further regulate music or video games. Really honestly, I listened to on the sly tip, but I didn't even own a Two Live Crew album until I was 17, 18, and I mean, they had been banned from performing in the U.S. by then. So, that was my family's way of making sure that I did not have access to what they felt like were bad influences. I feel like that's kind of what parents need to do. That's their role, is to teach and to protect. And we can't rely on anyone else, teachers, religious officials, politicians, anybody, to do a better job of teaching and or raising our kids than we can. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on that. But we also had some interesting events that popped off with this whole DACA deal. And for those of you who don't know, the DACA, better known as the Dreamers Act, was a initiative that was pushed into law by our former president that would allow illegal immigrants who came into the country as children to stay, provided that they register with the government and get on a path to citizenship. All right, let's go ahead and tackle this kind of head on. I do remember probably about 2 years ago in one of our first Debate Amongst Friends shows, where Doc and I were kind of getting into this whole thing about immigration, and I was telling him that there is logistically no way possible as it stands today, or that day, but even still today, for the United States government to go around the country rounding up every single person who is here illegally and deporting them. It is logistically impossible. I mean, I'm not even sure that we could do that on a state-by-state basis. It's a lot. And in saying that, I do also realize that there are people who, whether it is by their own admission or through no fault of their own, that are here illegally, do get caught and do get deported. And, my heart goes out to those people. However, I believe that John Adams said it best: a nation without borders is no nation. And we have to be able to protect the sovereignty of our country. We have to have borders, and those borders have to be enforced. Now, as far as what you do with the people who are already here, look, I'm with the mindset that if they are actually contributing to society, they want to become citizens, they want to acclimate to the culture of the United States, and they don't pose any threat to the general population, let them stay. I'm not saying move them to the front of the line, but I feel like that was one part of that Dreamer Act that actually served a relatively good purpose. At the same time, I think that the Dreamer Act failed in its application of this purpose. It essentially took people who came into this country as children and moved them up to the front of the line in terms of gaining citizenship, which I did not agree with. We don't punish children nearly as severely as we do adults for breaking laws. But there does need to be some form of penalty for that, because in essence, that's what happened. And it's a real slippery slope when you start excusing this law, but not that law, because now everybody has an excuse as to why they did what they did. Again, I'm not saying that any jail time, fines, anything like that need to be involved, because immigration is already hard enough, and that's a topic for another day. But what I am saying is that we won't move you to the front of the line. Let's think about it as waiting for your pork roast at the deli counter. All right, you've taken your ticket. I'm sorry that we're on number 3 and you're number 53, but that's kind of the way that it works. And maybe it is that these work permits or these student permits, student visas get extended out to the estimated wait time of these people who have already applied for citizenship. Maybe we can look at doing it that way. But I don't feel like if somebody came here, legally, applied for citizenship, is waiting for citizenship, and then gets bumped from their place by someone who didn't follow all of those protocols, I don't feel like that's right. And it kind of sends a message to the rest of the world that, hey, just show up. We'll give you what you want in the meantime, in between time, and even after. But all you have to do is get here. And we kind of had that same issue back in the 80s with a lot of Caribbean nations who were flooding into Florida and just kind of mingling in with the neighborhoods and the societies within Florida. I mean, ICE, as recently as 2003, was still going through and weeding some of those people out who had been here for, at that point, 20 some odd years. So, I mean, I don't really feel like you can treat this differently from that just because there are more immigrants coming from South and Central America. Once again, just my 2 cents on this. Y'all know, all day, that's all we do on Duke It Out. But, I wanted to hop on because I know it's been a while. Answer some listener questions and kind of touch base on what's been going on in the world today. So, I encourage all of you, man, keep it coming. If you have something that you want to know about, you have something that's, really been burning in the back of your mind, or you just want to open up a debate and see what I have to say about it, reach out to us. Your boy has an Instagram now. I still won't get a Twitter. I have a lot of pigeons, and I just hate laying people off for what seems like to me no good reason. So this is my employment plan, actually. I'm keeping the pigeons, I'm ditching Twitter. That's how we do this. But check me out on Instagram, Duke of Pigeons, and go ahead and shoot me your questions, comments, concerns from that point. Seeing as how this is February, and I don't typically buy into this, but I'm going to today. Let me give a little piece of Black history on this Black History Month. So, I actually wanted to talk about the origins of Black History Month. And I found this out in doing some research back in college. I had completely forgotten about it until it popped back up on my feed on yesterday. But I just kind of wanted to go ahead and read the first 2 paragraphs of this article. All right. Eminent Black historian Dr. Carter G. Woodson started Negro History Week in 1926, which intended to redress the lack of attention paid to Black achievement in society and in academia. This later morphed into Black History Month. However, Black History Month, as it exists today, is a lukewarm version of what Woodson envisaged. Woodson wanted Negro History Week to be a celebration of Black achievement, history, and culture. However, looking at the tepid practice of Black History Month today, one would be excused for erroneously believing that the bulk of Black historical achievements began in the 1950s. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, second African American to receive a PhD from Harvard, after renowned sociologist W.E.B. Du Bois, was famously both pro-African and pro-capitalism. Woodson understood the freeing power of capitalism and the potential it has for self-uplifting. For serious, solution-oriented Black conservatives today, Woodson provided a model of how one can be enthusiastically pro-market, doggedly anti-market economics, and do so while being unapologetically African. He demonstrated that endorsement of free market economics does not have to coincide with self-hatred and anti-blackness. When I went back and read that again, 13 years after I read it the first time, it kind of took on a whole new meaning for me. And I just wanted to share that with all of you guys. Being black is not conformist to any one idea of what quote-unquote blackness is. We have been, as a people, all over this globe for many, many centuries. Whether it was by force or by choice, it doesn't matter. We are one of the few peoples who have integrated ourselves into almost every society in the world. And so there is no decidedly one vision of what it means to be black. Being black to me means being yourself. So, for all of you out there celebrating Black History Month, by all means, do it big. Just don't forget where you came from, and be open to where others came from as well. I am the Duke. You can catch us on Debate Amongst Friends, on Twitter, Debate Amongst Friends, on Facebook, Instagram, and one more time, check Instagram, Duke of Pigeons. Control Booth, did y'all have anything else?
Nope. Make sure you catch us. You can listen to us outside of YouTube and Twitch on iTunes. We are now currently going to be on Google Play as well too, so make sure you give us a check out for some off-stream listening, and any and all podcast apps on your Apple and Android devices.
See, I seriously need a teleprompter, some notes, something. I don't know. I'll be going all off script. Blame the pigeons.
Don't worry. We're going to have a meeting about that, and we're going to see if Scott could put that in the budget.
Word, yeah. Teleprompter, Scott, man, make it happen. Matter of fact, we'll hit some flea markets, man, some thrift stores. I don't know. We'll make one.
I see what you did there. There. But yeah, man, solid show.
Word. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope that you have a great start to your week. I'm the Duke, signing off.